I don't know if anybody knows much about the Masons, but they're deeply involved in all walks of life, and that's where, you know, a lot of the problems stem from. Yeah, so it's about, they're about hoarding and competing. Yeah, and what we say, it should be more about sharing and cooperating. Yeah, and organising ourselves. Right, so that's why it's taking so long. Yeah, but until we can all come together, yeah, and share the vision, yeah, and realise, you know, that we have the power, not them, you know, and you know, until then we won't really succeed or get too far. But it's nice to know people are waking up, you know, and we are succeeding and we are getting far, you know. But the battle, right, is hard and long. You know, it's not for the weak heart. Yeah, alright.
Matai. Right, so basically what I'm interested in, so what basically you've got there is vested interests versus an enlightened group of people trying to better their situation in their environment, which is in Luton, mostly the Marsh Farm. Right, and there are tactics that have evolved in this, because it is a battle of wills. It's a battle of the oldest way of being is the capitalist system that we all know, and it drifts down, and this is on opposition to this, that is brand new, effectively, because it is community based and it isn't corrupt. They don't like that because they like to pass the money around between themselves. So what are the tactics that you employ to actually get what you need out of these people?
Matthew just hit the nail on the head. I mean, and this is for every community, it's not just Marsh Farm. Organisation is the key. If you, in your own community, if you organise, and we did a survey, we surveyed our neighbours, yeah? It's just one tactic, just not went into non-violent direct action, yeah? Spiritual principally speaking, we don't agree with violence. We think it's counterproductive and it plays into their hands, if you like, yeah? But we do mobilise in our thousands, convoys throughout the town, all of that sort of thing, to reclaim lands, yeah? And within that, just as an example, Mark asked for a tactic. We were out and knocked, this estate we live on, it's reputedly one of the poorest areas in the southeast. You wouldn't think so if you looked at it infrastructurally speaking, but in terms of everyone's skin and all that, it's one of the poorest areas in the southeast. And it's got a riot history. There's riots from 95, 96, it's got a bit of a history of that. And they see places like that as a bit, you know, we're just like to be provided to. You can't organise for yourself, you can't, you're thick, you're dishonest. There's a lot of prejudice that goes with what you could call, I mean, even the term deprived communities is prejudice in itself, yeah? Because there's a lot of riches in ourselves and our people. So what we did, we surveyed our neighbours and we said, where do we all spend our money? If this is a deprived community, where do we actually spend this money? And how much money comes into our 3,000 households estate? And we actually found out there's like £1 million a week coming in, and £1 million a week, that's benefits, wages, you know what I mean? Like just our combined incomes. And then we asked people, where do you spend that? And the essentials of life, yeah? Fruit, veg, petrol in the car, rah, rah, rah. So we actually measured our own GDP. We learned it was called GDP, Mark. We're into economics now. Our gross domestic product, right, was Marsh Farm's GDP every year, public and private, £93 million. And then we said, where do we spend that? And when people thought it through, they said, well, I spend this in Sainsbury's, I get my vegetables, and we're saying we could set up an urban village farm, effectively, providing our own vegetables, not just to break the corporate monopoly, but because we're 3 days away from food chaos when Sainsbury's and that breaks down, the transportation system, peak oil, all of this, you know, sane stuff. But when it comes from a council estate, you know what I mean, you don't write books on it, you try and do it. All of a sudden them vested interests gather round, they circle us, and Mark will tell you, you know, I swear to God, we've been framed up 64 times, is it, something like that? 64 different charges from the police, every one of them not guilty, and in the end the Beds County Council vote for a civil rights inquiry because they were on us that much. And there's people shifting tons of cocaine in Luton, they don't give them the attention, you know what I mean? But because we organise ourselves as a community, they shit scared of that, because the potential is you won't be dependent on them anymore for providing. So that's why we got a fucking free ticket, sorry.
All right. So Some respect there, I think. A little bit of respect there might be due. Right. So, what I want to know now is end game, really? Because there has to be an end to game. This is a serious thing, and there has to be an end game. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Right? So, what is the ideal, when you've built this thing, tell me what, and everybody else, what the actual end game is. Go on, Glenn.
When you get time, take a look at the posters outside, you get a bit of detail, but here's the end game, yeah? What we didn't realise, when we first started squatting for parties, and then squatting for a home, and then squatting for a job, really, because, you know, you set up a social enterprise, we'd call it, you know, not-for-profit business, basically. So we're trying to create our own work. When you do all that, you get to realise it's a way of life that you're building here, alright? So the end game is when I got 4 kids here, when I brought up my kids, the only values option they had in terms of work was Rome, Rome or Rome. Private business, even the public businesses are part of the bigger machine, if you like. And for me, and us, all of us here, you kind of resist, you know what I mean? You know you've got to go work, but the whole idea of making someone a Mercedes Benz, right, and using you, and you know, the whole unfair shape of it all, the pyramid, the hierarchies, all of that, yeah, we kind of come away from that. And in 2 years' time, we'll have been at this now for 21 years. We're at it 19 years now. And in 2 years' time, we've just secured, we're on Marsh Farm where we live, there was an old factory in the middle, and we campaigned for years. And in the end, we forced some money off the government. And people say, government money, too right, that's taxpayers' money, too right, our money, yeah? Too right, community centres that are owned by the people rather than spending on Iraq, yeah? I know some people on the fringe, if you like, cultural fringe, so government money, yeah man, government money, we're fighting for that.
Makes me proud that I pay taxes for you, man.
Thank you. Thank you. So what we've done, we've got this community centre, it's probably, someone might correct me, but I think it's the biggest single community centre in the country now, which is owned by the distinct community around it. We're just doing a community share, so you're actually a shareholder by virtue of residence, yeah? So not the council, they rent a space from us now in there, and the community owns this. We put an indoor kids play park in there, which attracts people to Marsh Farm. No one ever comes to Marsh Farm. All of a sudden there's thousands of people turning up because, you know, them high energy play parks indoor, the kids love it, yeah? So next year, the end game, Mark, 21 years, we'll have, if you look outside, there's another drawing. We've got our community centre. Make that genuinely democratic, transparent, so that if you came to Luton, you'd think, wow, these people genuinely own it and genuinely run it and genuinely have a say in it, rather than some little clique committee. You'll see a different model if you come to Luton. And alongside that, there's an old derelict pits near us, yeah? And our history is we're ravers. We dance beneath the stars, as someone once said. Right? And why can't festival sites like this, because you know it's brilliant, isn't it? You walk down at night, Twinkly Village, all of that. Then it's a cow field again next week, and it's all gone, you know? And what we did, we brought festival culture, because we squatted some places and had Free the Spirit Festival. Same year you started this, wasn't it? Just before that, wasn't it? And it kind of fused the urban fringe, the urban street, if you like, with festival culture. No one had ever seen that where we come from. Because, to be honest, yeah, festivals, big time, have been commercialised, isn't it? 150 quid to get in, 200. That's not for, we can't get in, unless my man gives us some tickets. Yeah, we can't get in. But you know what I mean? And so what we've done is we've got this plan. The whole community is mobilising around this, a cultural union we're calling it. And that involves your mainstreamers, your Cultural Services Trust from the council end of things, through to us and 14 other ragtag sound systems. We've got all heaps of sound systems in Bedfordshire, squatters, yeah? And the idea is, we've got a better idea than having to squat all the time. Let's have a festival centre that's permanent, so that we can not be fleeced, not be overcharged. Beer can be 150, not 450. You know what I mean? Real things, man, real stuff, yeah? As you say, this is a way of life. And I think in 2 years' time, if you come to Luton, inshallah, we'll see that we have succeeded in not just the community centre and a blueprint for a better way to live in a council estate with our own organic farm, etc. Less dependence on supermarkets and all that shit. You'll see a better way of life and the best damn festival that you could go to monthly, yeah? And that generates enough resources, I swear, to buy the land, register a common land trust, buy the land, so it's owned by the people. The festival, our last festival we put on, we got a licence for 10,000 and we had to put the gates back because, you know what I mean? It was ram solid. So we got that, to turn that energy into something permanent. In 2 years' time, we should have that. So hopefully you should come to Sunderland Pits, and instead of being a derelict chalkland, it'll be like a tented village that generates resources in all sorts of ways for communities. And we hope that's a blueprint that everyone, everywhere, there's pits everywhere, isn't it? You know? In Europe, Mark says they do this now, don't they? Yeah? So that's, for us, the end game, is a way of life based on sharing and cooperation, not hoarding and competition of Babylon, as Matthew says, but a way of life that I can go to work in the day, come home and feel like I've done my soul good, instead of some arsehole good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Has anyone got any questions they might want to ask anybody? No pressure. If you haven't got any questions, it's not a problem because you can just speak to them because they're here all weekend.
Yeah, there's a hand up. Mark.
Yeah, alright. Thank you very much. But if you have any questions, okay, you've got a question.
What's your hierarchy?
What's our hierarchy?
You've got to have some organisation.
No, I mean, absolutely, but...
Is it one leader or is it a body?
Yeah, we're a collective, yeah, so...
Everyone has a say?
Everyone not only has a say, we have every penny that's generated. If you go to that dance, put in that bucket, you can come to that meeting. So it's wider than just the collective, but everything's put online, people can come and join in. It's flat, what we call flat managed, yeah? So it's like a wheel rather than a pyramid. The hub in the middle is the overall goal, and everyone's a spoke, that's how we describe it. But I'm being honest with you, when you've all been schooled in Pyramidsville, and your head's been shaped like that at school, and you've been taught to wait for the captain's whistle, so to speak, rather than self-organise, you have to go through a psychological shift, and that means looking at yourself. And we're all born in Egypt, if you know what I mean, pyramids, isn't it? So it's not easy. It's not easy to. You can say flat management, doing it. I mean, look, the fact we're still together after 19 years says something, doesn't it? You know?
Round table.
Anyone else? I saw another hand up there, isn't there? Just shout it out if you've got one.
The other thing we do in terms of leadership is in terms of, I think what you're talking about, is we have a rotation basis. So in the collective, we each take it in turns to coordinate, perhaps in pairs or threes. So the idea is that over time, everybody in the organisation has taken on a leadership role, if you like, but no one is one sort of leader on a permanent basis. So it's something that we take turns with rather than forming that pyramid.
Okay, well, yeah, if you've got any questions, just come up and speak to the guys. They're all here. They're all wandering around. Some tunes, all good? Thank you very much for your kind indulgence.
And don't forget, music this afternoon, tonight it kicks up in here. Yeah, tribal beats tonight if you want some.